just zoom in a little bit and kind of point the camera down a little bit. All right, let's look at this threaded rig now. So this is basically where the shutter, your actual shutter button that you're shuttering, and this will simultaneously press this shutter and the shutter. And it's not that much of a movement. It's not that big of a movement, but that is what is basically synchronizing these two shutters. This wire over here actually pushes this plate up so that it is pressured against the shutter button over here. That way it kind of like gives it a little tension to press against, so that it's not like just like willy-nilly, just like kind of shuttering that button all the time. And this is definitely a finger rest for yourself, for comfort. I have still yet to discover, of course, what the hell this situation going on is. This has to be for some sort of, it has to be for a flash. It has to be for a flash, I think. And that has to be a connection for a PC cord. And this may be also like a connection for a flash somehow. Like maybe it's for a card. I don't know what this is. This is a mystery to me. The man who created it, or the woman who, the person who created this, who are you? Where are you? Who shot this rig? Who is this owned by? That information I think I do have. I'm gonna have to look through the cards again. But in any event, this is the proper way of actually having this camera rig, this twin rig, this portrait rig, threaded and mounted. This is a beautiful, I actually measured this. This does go center of, and when you're measuring for a twin rig, you're going to want to measure the center of the lens, the very dead center of the lens, with another very dead center of the lens. It could be oriented in an entirely different fashion. It could be this way, it could be that way, it could be any way you want, as long as the lenses are the same make, model, manufacturer. These cameras were specifically made with a lens run that was like, I think 3 serial numbers apart, which is incredible. And so that makes it so that the production run of the lenses comes from the same batch of glass. Like, you know, it gets so specific like that, with like aberrations and just basically lens manufacturing that you want that. And so this is something that is it's just gorgeous. It's well thought out, well made in every single aspect. And I'm gonna let me turn on a flash and take a picture. And this is how you turn on the flash. You could still, yeah, I could hear that one. I could hear that one fire up and that one not. So hopefully this one will fire. And I'm just gonna take a picture of you guys, of the camera, of my phone, and that'll be fine. I will commemorate this first and second and third live stream with a little commemorative photo, stereo photo on the portrait rig, and I'm going to just like line this up basically. And this is automatic. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to focus it in any way. I can actually just point and shoot in like any general direction, and it will take a well-metered, automatically focused, and just really good picture, good pair of images, good pair of photos. So I'm gonna take. I don't want to go that close. It still has its own thresholds and parameters. This comes a little bit loose, but as long as it's not coming loose from the bottom with that little swing arm, that's really where your problems arise if you actually get that not caught. So this right here, this is really not catching the way I wanted it. I maybe have mounted this not so as perfectly as I thought, but here we go, 1, 2, 3. And so I don't know if you saw both flashes go off. I will have to rewatch the video, but you don't even have to use 2 flashes. You can just have one of them set, and it will still that would be extremely bright. You know, like 2 flashes are brighter than 1, and it's an incredibly versatile. So this is the second part of this. Basically, so this basically poses another problem that really isn't thought out when you are using a stereo camera, because especially when you're using a 35 millimeter film stereo camera, because they are all made around the realist format, which kind of like like a stereo mount is a stereo a a realist slide mount. It's not called a 35 millimeter stereo. It's called realist. I have a whole theory on that. But basically, this is a full frame camera, and this takes full frame images. And viewing two full frame images side by side presents a lot of problems for a viewer, depending on what sort of stereo format that you will be presenting this in. These are stereo photographs. I'm going to get a pair of stereo photographs after this. What do I do with this? How do I communicate the thing that I just made to you so that you are able to see it in 3D, and I can communicate perceivable depth to you through whatever means and methods and techniques and technologies that I utilize in order to do that. So one of the ways that is tried and true method. You can, of course, print an anaglyph if you know how to print anaglyphs. This is something that I've had hung in my window because I am trying to test how color fast this material that I printed on in this transparency. And this is an anaglyph by David Hazan, one of my favorite stereographers ever of all time, and also a champion of the anaglyph format, which really gets a lot of flack and is very it should be more elevated, and I'm trying to do my best to kind of do that. What these cameras will produce is a full frame image, and a full frame image is I think Leica dictated the full frame image, and that's 24 by 36. So you will get a frame like this. This happens to be a stereo of like you can see that it's like halved right there. So this is taken with a single camera with a beam splitter on it, and that made a image that is half and half, and basically so. This is something that's another type of format that has to be viewed in a specific viewer that is created for this type of format, or it could be projected with a accessory or a specific type of projector that was designed to specifically project this format and this format only, the side-by-side landscape beam split stereo image that comes out on a single slide. It's a single frame. It's a single shutter image that is taken from two vantage points. There's a format that I discovered that is basically that I called a pseudogram, that has existed throughout the history of stereo photography and photography. In theory, most likely, there's absolutely any possibility that it could have existed throughout either one of those histories, and that's basically, you don't even use a stereo camera. You use a single moment of it's defined by a single moment of it's a photographic format that's defined by a single moment of exposure taken from a single vantage point, whereas like the beam split image I just showed you was taken from a beam split, so that's two different vantage points. And so, and the way that you do that is you can take one photograph of repeated same or similar images, motifs, patterns, whatever. And as long as it's a photographic image, and even this counts like as a video. So right now I can just sit here and I can cross view these in the phone, like what I'm looking at right now from behind here. And this is a pseudogram. I just made a pseudographic video, a pseudogrammic video. And that is absolutely a format. It's a very legitimate format. It is absolutely categorized in a very distinct and different category than any stereo image that is taken with two different vantage points or two lenses or whatever it would be, because there is a difference between a photograph and a stereo pair, or a stereo image, or stereo photography, etc., etc., etc. So this is where values and definitions and meaning really come into play when you're approaching stereoscopic communication. If you don't have these very basic, very foundational, just foundations, you are not able to delineate between one another, or you might not have perspective that you need in order to, like, identify that there's a format that has not been yet categorized or defined, and be the person who discovers it and gets to name it. There's so much more to discover here, and so many different ways of approaching it. And so this presents a problem that is something that you will only know from perspective or from hearing it from somebody else, from somebody with experience with slides. The realist format is a 5 per frame that I was explaining to you before. That's important to know because these are full frames. These are 8 frames. They don't make slide mounts for, they do actually. I actually have some, and like, when you know your stuff, then like you get to know the people who have the things that you need. But you can even see like right here, like, there's excuse me, there's a difference between this white frame right here. It's a very minuscule difference, but you can still see the black frame behind. So this is I think it's a little whiter on top also, but this might be a 7 per frame. And even finding a 7 per frame stereo mount in a realist format is like a little odd. Like, they really don't make them bigger than that. But wait, they do. They make 8 per frames. I'm going to have to see if this is an 8 per frame right now. Let's see if I can see it through there. I'm gonna have to look at it in the light. This is just shy. I think this might be a 7 per frame, whereas this is an 8 per image. And so like it's gonna cut off a bit of the image. And so finding a mount, let's say, and I had these two loaded with chrome film, so it wasn't like I mean I could make prints also, but how am I going to view this in a regular stereo viewer that's for realist format? It's become such a ubiquitous thing that was produced in the 50s and the late 40s and throughout the 70s and into the early 80s, I believe. That even knowing as many people that like coming across an 8 perf mount is like kind of like you get them like maybe once. I've really never looked for them because I've never had a need before. But you don't come across them that often. I don't even think I think I might have like half a box, and like that's the only ones that I know of. In this case, what the not preferred method, but what was an option that was definitely utilized quite often was taking the single slides and just basically making a twin slide rig out of it. And so there are mounts that are just specifically for single slides that will allow you to mount a pair of slides that are full frame in portrait mode or in landscape. And this obviously won't fit into a stereo realist viewer. This is a bit bigger. It's not medium format. It's a twin. It's basically a twin full frame format. And this, like, this is not ever going to fit in something that has a slot that's this big. This used Radex made. Let me see if I have it handy here. Do you want? Oh, where's that Radex viewer I just had? Oh, here it is. So this is a twin slide viewer that is made specifically for twin slides, and this might be specifically. You see, this doesn't fit in there. This is made to actually accept a single slide at a time that you don't need a slide mount for. But like even this, so this is a Radex also, but this is something I took that plastic. The plastic was like buckling, so I took it off. Now I'm going to replace it, but this doesn't even fit in here. Like, and this is not something that really adjusts. So finding even like now I have an entirely new set of problems. What the hell type of viewer can I even fit this in that I can even view these? Because this viewer will not take single slides. They'll just like kind of like fly around in there. Whereas this Radex viewer, which is also Radex, and boom, that fits. Boom, that fits, and this takes 2 single slides. And you're able to view them. It's fine, blah, blah, blah. You can orient them in portrait or landscape, which way your rig was set up. And it eliminates the need for this like weird, or not weird, this mask, or this slide conjoiner. What do you want to call this? What is the name of this? what are you called? You are a stereo slide photo data. It's just basically a dual full frame slide mount, and that allows you to mount two slides. So these all of a sudden, like, I have all these options, and I have all these different accoutrements that like don't fit into any of the equipment I have, and I have to take each individual slide out and make sure that I have a specific piece of equipment that allows for single slides, as opposed to this, which will not allow singles. I mean, it'll allow it, but they'll just shake around and you won't be able to view the image. And then you can mount them in here and like do that, and like, do I have to design a viewer at this point to view these if I'm going to look at slides? Does this go into a projector perhaps that I can project it on a wall for like, a group viewing? And then I'll have an entirely new set of issues to solve, which will be, how do I have a projection on the wall that everybody can view? I'm going to have to use some sort of passive or active display for it to it basically divide the left and the right images. Can you use anaglyph? Sure. Can you use polarized? Sure. What's involved with polarized? That's a whole new other set of things. So there are a lot of things that were already covered in the history of stereophotography and the history of stereoscopic communication that people with history know, people who are researchers know, that specifically try to explore and discover and piece together this very fragmented patchwork of a history that we have. People who are just coming into stereophotography right now are discovering these things from people who carry the histories with us, who research them, and are learning as they go along, brand fresh, new. And even people with like photographic experience and are professional photographers, you're learning stereography as you go along if you're being introduced to it for the first time. So this is something that, like, these values that are the integral foundations, these are the framework of stereoscopic communication is now being valued separately from the values that photography share with it if you are a stereophotographer. And this is very important because stereophotography without knowledge of stereography is just a photographer who is basically kind of winging it, kind of, I want to say, who doesn't understand the rules, the language, I want to say, even though it's not a language, it's visual language, but the stereo part isn't even visual at all, I would argue, and somebody could argue with me, how is that? And like, that's a whole nother discussion. Even like the most, there was a class that was given at one of the most respected, absolutely respected institutions for historic and process photography in New York City, and they had a stereo class, and none of the teachers knew anything about stereography or stereoscopic communication. They were misidentifying orientations, very basic left and right images, and like how to communicate that to somebody, and the importance of being able to communicate it properly to somebody. They were able to absolutely, like, show you how to operate a wet plate camera, but they weren't able to explain the basic principles of stereoscopic communication, and that's a shame. And this is what I try to do, and this is what contemporary stereographer is going to be about. It's not going to be about necessarily gear. We will absolutely look at gear, and believe me, if you like gear, I have a fantastic collection of gear, and I'm going to be hopefully having people on interviews with everybody else who also has gear. And not, you don't have to be fantastic, you don't even have to be a good stereographer, you just have to be interested and you want to know more, and you want to share the things that you know, etc., etc. One other thing I'm going to cover really quickly right now is, like, I was just showing you, like, that's a format that could come out of this camera, 35mm slides, full frame, blah, blah, blah. What if you're not making slides? What if I had print film loaded in this? I can't really do negatives and get a film strip back unless I'm specifically aesthetically looking for a negative image to view. So this is something that I came across a couple of months ago. at a very beautiful store in the neighborhood called Vintage Thrift, and they have it's basically like my grandmother's house on for sale, and they have this beautifully made display. This is a viewer called an up and down viewer. So whereas these were going in a slide holder or a viewer that oriented them side by side, which is the normal way, like, your left eye, your right eye. Oh, that just makes sense. This is a viewer that does not orient things, that does not require your stereoscopic image pair that you might end up with side by side the way that nature intended. This is an up and down viewer, and the way an up and down viewer works is that you have one image on the bottom and one image on the top, and this really lends itself to the full frame format because it allows you to put two very long images instead of side to side, which might be an impossible thing to do with a handheld viewer at a certain distance that might be handheld. That's something that you might look at on the wall. There's so many elements and so many different parameters involved in stereoscopic communication that apply to everything across the board. And if you don't have enough room within your field of view to view the whole image from one side to the end and the other side to the end, then you are not going to be able to you're gonna have to crop, you're gonna have to do all these other things to compensate for that. And so this is something that I found at the store at Vintage Thrift, which is on like 3rd Avenue, and like it's like between 22nd and 23rd, I think. And so this is a display that like literally is it's its own self-contained display. This is just showing you how to do it, and this is by Benjamin Lord, and this is a beautiful, beautiful portfolio of images. So he has these gorgeous little portfolios. They're like just like little, very simple paperboard, and he has his images printed in the up and down format. And so the way that this is, and this is amazing actually. Get ready, right? Pin up, fold up. My God, and like this, you could put in the display and just kind of just slide it along for yourself. You could get so creative with stereophotography, stereoscopic communication in general. Benjamin Lord, Norton Chris, that was called excuse me. This one in particular. Oh, also the Norton Christmas Project. This is in 2010. He made this, and this is volume 1 of the series. And this came with a couple of little volumes and like a couple of extra like little tiny like mini portfolios, I want to say. This is absolutely accessible to everybody. Making a print that is an up and down print from 2 full frame cameras, or just 1 full frame camera, just taking an image twice, perhaps in a cha-cha format. These are also from the same series, and it's called, excuse me, Hummel Ewo chambers. Excuse me, I'm so sorry that I can't pronounce that off the top of my head. And I think they were the same ones that that were that August maybe made holograms of the same type of motif or subject matter. I'm gonna have to confirm that or not, but these are just a couple of, I'm just gonna leaf through a couple of them. And so the way that these work is that this is basically a mirror rig in itself. There are no lenses in here. It's just 4 mirrors, mirrors reflecting mirrors. It's sorcery, But basically it aligns your natural left and right view with an up and down format. So basically you would be able to orient yourself within these 2 up and down images and just align them for yourself. And you see, like, even right here, you can kind of see that they're being aligned. So this is just a very easy, no-brainer type of format. These viewers tend to be not as well known. There's not as many made as, like, let's say a Stereo Realist Radix viewer. Like, of course those are a dime a dozen, and they will cost something comparable to a dime a dozen. Whereas a up and down viewer is something that is more of a, I want to say, maybe they were manufactured, but like this is something that was not as popular of a design. The up and down format, I want to say, might be a more popular format for like video for television. For 3D TVs, I think utilize the up and down format the most out of everybody. But this is something that is so easily reproduced. I'm right now, like I was ripping apart like an old dollar store stereography project I made, like with like little mirrors, and like lo and behold, this has a little mirror for the for one of the viewing sides, which is actually like located in this part. And then I have, of course, like my cheap dollar store mirrors that I have in a larger size. So I'm going to be making my own up and down viewers, so I can give them to people and have my my little crew who wants to do how they do, you know. And because I, I, I might be versed in stereography, but I don't think I'm the best stereo photographer out of the group by far. This is something that I discovered from this display. These up and down viewers have this like little channel that you could put an L bracket in, and it'll like be this natural like holder, this natural view. I didn't even know, because I've always held them in my hand. You know what I mean? I always gone up to a print like that. So the way that this was designed, by the way, this is a beautiful design for this just like standalone display that you can have your on your table, on a tabletop. It doesn't have to be in a gallery. It could be in your house, whatever you want. And you just basically put your portfolios like that. And this has like a little tiny channel for this to slip into. If I can find it. Hello. I'm going to hold it for a second because I don't want it to fall. But it basically goes like that. And this is distanced pretty much. So this is something that like perhaps all people will not be able to see this, or perhaps somebody with very extensive like, you know, like farsightedness or nearsightedness might not be able to view the image from this distance with this, but maybe can hold it in their hand and view it from a different perspective or a different length, as long as it falls within the image parameters that it has. But this is a beautiful designed way of presenting stereo images that are taken in full frame with 2 full frame cameras. And just having these portfolios of just, instead of a book or instead of cards or whatever, and then you put them all back, and like, you know, it has a place for itself, it knows where it lives in the display itself. This doesn't fold down or anything like that, so this is like really like a permanent thing. But it's a beautiful piece, and it's something that is if you are unable to get this viewer, it's very easy to make. All you have to do is have a right angle in 2 of these, and like, you know, like if you can kind of just figure out by like the way the triangles are, the mirror is located on one side and the mirror is located on the other side, and then you just replicate that, and when you get 2 of them, then you have all of a sudden an up and down display. You can make a pseudoscope like this, you can make a stereoscope like this, and you can make an up and down stereoscope like this for a side-by-side image or a up and down image. And I definitely, this is part of being a contemporary stereographer. How are you going to present your images? How are you going to communicate the thing that you just made so that is viewable to somebody else in a manner that is stereoscopic, that is activating the function in your brain, and that you are able to communicate perceivable depth? And it's something that a show just about 3D cameras would not address properly, I don't think. So these are things that have already been thought about. These are issues that have been repeated throughout the history of stereography, about that have been repeated patterns that we come across, and that have been addressed throughout time by different people who are either trying to make new ways of addressing them or are disconnected from our history. And so another value that is so absolutely important, where's my book that I was writing things in, but I already lost track of that. Being aware, being versed in variety, being versed in history, being versed in the history of stereoscopic imagery and stereoscopic communication. You could have your favorite stereographers, whatever you want, but being versed in the attempts to address the same problem over and over again, and coming up with the same solution, and not knowing that it has already been solved previously by dozens of people before you, and like you think you have this new thing, and it's like it's not, and like that's why like when I was discovering the format that I discovered, the only thing that I researched for like almost 4 years, because there it was obviously like there was no argument that this was a format and this was a distinct format. Like I didn't have to like really argue on that. I had to define it, and that's something that I had to do a lot of research on also. But the thing that I really researched was this ever addressed before? Was this ever, like, in the history, like, like I could not possibly be. And I'm still looking for if anybody has any portfolios of images that were just single images of, and they were called specifically accidental stereos or found stereos, which is why I set precedents for intent to communicate something stereoscopically by the from capture, from whatever point you're trying to do it, from like doing a collage, whatever you're doing, the intent to communicate in this fashion, to communicate perceivable depth, is the defining factor between stereoscopic communication. That this was a this was a format that I discovered, and everything else before it, which was found images, which is images that were not intended to communicate something stereoscopically, but somebody found something in them, and from that point on, they became stereoscopic communication. Because from that, not from the moment of capture, if you were using somebody else's image and you find some sort of element in them that is stereoscopic, that you can free view, that has the ability to be viewed stereoscopically, and maybe nothing else in the image doesn't, but this one part does. This intentional need, this intent to communicate depth through whatever type of method that you're using to communicate this depth, is, to me, a very definition of what stereoscopic communication is, and it is the delineating line between accidental formats that might have existed, just a single photograph of two same or similar motifs or objects or people or drawings or whatever it is, and one that was intended to be stereoscopic from the moment that you made it to its moment of whether it's viewed or not. That's a whole nother definition, because the real definition is only personal definition. There's no other definition really, but defining stereoscopic communication as an intentional with a meaning of intent, is something that really I never found in the history of my research, and I needed to use it as an example to set precedents for that. So keep that in mind also whenever you're doing something, to know that there is a rich and really robust and varied tapestry of a history that is just tattered, and it's like people who do research really piece it together actively as we go along, and there's a whole entire format that even in the backyard of New York City, that's been championed by an entirely like a huge culture, like like they're generations long, and M. Henry Jones, and the elusive, the legended integral image, which was championed by Count Roger de Montebello and by M. Henry Jones, his successor, and is now being kind of borrowed. The language is being borrowed by spatial images, by Apple's spatial whatever, and by excuse me, spatial photography is kind of being used to or at least has adopted the moniker of holography, which is this is why we're doing this show. This is why I'm doing the show, so we can kind of set things straight as naturally as we can going along. But sorry, this is run extremely long like all my videos do, but if you're interested in stereoscopic communication, if you're interested in stereoscopic history, and stereophotography specifically, I'll have a lot of really cool content coming up soon, and even, you know, just in this natural fashion, I'm going to be able to communicate the values that really need to be set the framework and really set foundations that will live on in no matter what type of stereoscopic method of communication that you choose to pursue. And even like, you know, like it applies across the board. It's they're defining factors. And so thank you for your patience with my rig. This was I can't wait to shoot it a lot. I'm going to be shooting a lot this weekend. So if you see me out on the streets and you see some weirdo with a rig that looks like blah blah blah, flag me down. I'll take your picture. Or I'll take your portrait. Or you could even shoot it yourself if you want to try it out. And so that's it. And hopefully you'll tune in again because I'm going to have a lot more content coming up. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.